All right, so just as a reminder, right? Aries, we have to understand our Aries placement, okay? Because we have a stellium right now in Aries, and Mars is coming into Aries to activate all of the impulses there into a very assertive nature. And we want to know how to use our Aries. Aries is square to Cancer. It's also square to Capricorn. It's in opposition to Libra. Okay? So, Aries is what we do with our freedom. It's what we do with our free will. It's how we assert our free will. When we assert our free will, we're in the act of creation from the concept that we found in Pisces, that we generated in Pisces. We learn to clear the fear at Pisces so that we're not creating from impulses of fear, shame, or guilt, okay? So we had to learn to clear those things so that we can create from the heart center, from the intention, from the heart soul urge, okay? Expression and way of the life path, understand, all right? That's what we're here to do. Aries is the spiritual warrior when we have Neptune involved. So the context is spiritual warrior. We're not spiritual warriors if our shadows are not behind that Aries. The shadows come from the shadow work at Scorpio. Understand this. So you want to reference back to the Scorpio stellium transits of 2024, 2025. And during that time, along with the 7 to 9 month transit of Cancer Mars retrograde, there was a lot that we were learning as it relates to incorporating our shadows. The shadows are the aspects of the self, the truth of the self, the convictions of the self that we found reason to suppress. And we suppressed it because we didn't want to face rejection, isolation, feeling loveless. We didn't want to be threatened by someone walking away from us, or it's not belonging to a certain group, demographic, order, organization, fraternity, culture, subculture, certain relationships, family or romantic or otherwise. So we decided to suppress these parts of ourselves in order to fit in, to be accepted, to be liked, for people can have certain opinions of you so that you can have validation, so that you could be looked at as quote unquote normal, okay? So the shadows are the parts of yourself that could make you look like a heretic until you learn how to balance it all out. It's the part of yourself that people feel like they have to question whether or not they want to continue dealing with you, like they want to be around you or not, because it's intensified truth in you. That intensified truth can make people very uncomfortable if they're not aligned with truth, if they're not living authentically, if they're not living real. The shadows challenge status quo. It challenges conformity. It challenges social engineering and agreements that are not authentic, real, true, sincere, or coming from the heart. So your shadows, when they're working with you, when they're walking with you, you could find that many people are clutching pearls. Many people are shocked at your audacity, at your nerve, at your boldness. And without the shadows, we don't have spiritual power. We don't have force. We don't have spiritual force behind our Aries. It's ineffective. You've got to have the shadows. You have to show up with the shadows. The shadows means that you don't get to be politically correct. You don't get to sit there with, your hair so perfect and slicked back, and you understand your neckties all tight, and you button the top button on your shirt. You understand all these things. And so this is something to consider with what should be behind your Aries. Also, along with that, the square to Cancer, That is moral commitment. It is also consultation of the oracle within. It is honoring the inner child in all things that you do. It is to have a conscience with all things that you do. And it is to not violate what it means to reverence humanity in all that you do. Not to be inhumane in how you go about doing what you do. The other wing of honoring freedom would be accountability. So the first is moral commitment. The other is accountability. Accountability is at the square of Aries and Capricorn. That is accountability to the duties and responsibilities that we have active, that how we use Aries should not contradict the fulfillment of our duties and obligations. It should not cause us to betray our duties and obligations and commitments and contracts. It should not cause us to act out of order and protocol of said strategy, long-term goals. There should be an objective, there should be a purpose, there should be an aim, and there should also be a commitment to due process. When we use Aries without observing due process, it makes a criminal of us. This is how we get into criminology. You become a criminal when you assume that you're entitled to outcomes and results without having to pass through due process. So you don't want to become a criminal, so you have to acknowledge accountability. You also don't want to be reckless and entitled, so you have to acknowledge accountability. In opposition to that, we have Libra. This is to check in and see, is somebody putting a quarter in my back and sending me off on a dummy mission, a crash dummy mission? You understand? Where I become the useful idiot of somebody who benefits from my rage, who benefits from my willingness to fight for something, my desire to stand up for something or to be a part of, something to fight for. Who's benefiting from how I'm behaving? Who's benefiting from what I'm doing? Who's benefiting from the idea of me being reckless, or the idea of me being confrontational, the idea of me being violent, the idea of me being impulsive, the idea of me not having a plan or aim or objective, but I just want to get up and I want to bark. You understand? So Libra is where we see whose hand is on the handle, who's holding the handle of the knife that drives the tip of the knife, which is Aries. Who's driving me? And it's not always obvious who or what is driving you. You could have a muse and not realize who your muse is. You could be inspired, motivated by someone, and you don't even realize it. The programming runs deep. And this is what the 12th and 6th house axis is about, is coming to the realization of what is driving us. The bottom side of the iceberg. To understand what is really behind the enemies that I create for myself and my daily obstacles. Where am I misusing or unaware of my own consent, the power of my consent, where I contract certain impulses, spirits, generational curses, or puppet masters over me, in which I'm serving something that's against what I believe in. I'm being used for something that's in contradiction to my own interests, or I'm doing something harmful unwittingly while I think that I'm doing something good. You understand? So these are things to consider, when it comes to our Aries.